Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Buff Sports Live. I'm Ben Wells.
And I'm Drew Sherrick, on the desk for the very first time. Say, Ben, I really got to say, it's been a tense and exciting week in the CU sporting world.
Right, you are, Drew. So, I see no reason to delay. Let's get right into it.
It was a startling game Thursday night as the 18th ranked Buffaloes took down the USC Trojans by the score of 70-66. The Buffs had a shaky start out of the gates, but would storm back from behind to improve to 21-6 on the season. Here's Taylor Zadusky with more.
Here at the CU Event Center, your Buffs won 70-66 over the USC Trojans. This was a crucial game, even though Tab Boyle had mentioned it was a very ugly win. They had 11 turnovers in the first half, and they were just not on fire. He said his starters were playing very, very sloppy and not as polished as he would like them to be this late in the season. Going in the second half, seniors Shane Gatlin recorded 13 points on the game and Lucas Seward with 11 points. This also was a huge night for Tyler Bay as he recorded his 11th triple-double on the season. The Buffs will return back here this Saturday to take on UCLA here at 2. I'm Taylor Sadusky with Buff Sports Live.
With that win against USC last night and an Oregon loss, Colorado is now in sole possession of first place in the Pac-12. But it's a crowded top of the field, with only one game separating Arizona and Arizona State from Colorado and Oregon right in that mix as well. If the Buffs stay in the top 4, they'll get a bye for the first round of the Pac-12 tournament. But right now, Tad Boyle says the Pac-12 standings mean nothing.
Means nothing, okay? There's 4 games to go. Being in first place right now means nothing. It didn't mean anything 2 weeks ago. Doesn't mean anything right now. It means absolutely nothing. What matters is we have to take care of business on Saturday. That's all that matters. First place, whatever. Okay, we got to win the next game and do our job and take care of our 2 seniors that deserve a great send-off.
The women's basketball team had a heartbreaking loss to Stanford last week. They went into the second half trailing, but staged an epic comeback in the third quarter to take the lead. The game was tied 66-66 at the end of the fourth quarter, but Kiana Williams of Stanford had other ideas, throwing a buzzer beater to win the game for the Cardinal moments after tying it. The final score was 69-66. Maya Hollingshead finished the game with 19 points for CU, while 3 other players scored in the double digits. Coach J.R. Payne spoke after the game.
During Sunday's game, the women's basketball team honored one of the greatest basketball teams we've ever seen here at CU Boulder, the 1994-95 women's team, coached by Seal Berry. And most of them were back for the weekend. The 94-95 team featured a star recruit, Isabel Fijalkowski, who is listed at 6'3", but reports say she was actually closer to 6'5". Either way, the Buffs had a very successful regular season and ran the table, winning the Big 8 with a perfect 14-0 in the conference. When they got into the NCAA tournament, they were the number 1 seed. Gino Ariema's UConn Huskies were number 2. They made it all the way to the Elite 8, but they just couldn't get past Georgia. All in all, it was the most successful basketball season we've seen here. And by the reception on Sunday, the fans still remembered.
And now for the time you've all been waiting for, Buffs fans, to use that noggin of yours. That's right, it's the trivia question of the week, and we are asking today, what is the CU men's basketball record for most wins in a season? Stay tuned later in the show, although we might have potentially given you a huge hint right there. With the record and that the Buffs currently are on right now, I mean, you could see them shattering this potential record.
Absolutely. They've got 4 games left in the season. They're at 20 right now. It's absolutely a possibility. And, we just talked about that women's team and now this team. There's a lot of good basketball going on right now.
Very good basketball going on right now. I would say the women's team was very unlucky with that result against Stanford, but it's moving on for them.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break right now, and we will be back later with tennis, track and field, lacrosse, and I hear Vinay Simlot's going to be in the studio for some Buff Banner.
Interesting.
How dare you disrespect me like that? Do I look like a commingled container to you?
No, you're not real. back now with some football news. Mel Tucker resigned as head coach of Colorado last week, and now a few sentences have followed him out the door. The first is offensive coordinator Jay Johnson, who will now be the offensive coordinator at Michigan State, following Mel Tucker. Chris Kapilovic, the former offensive line coach here that will take the same job in East Lansing, and Ross Ells will also be joining Mel Tucker as the special team coach for the Spartans. All of those coaches were still under contract with Colorado, so they had to pay a buyout to the university. The total buyout from the 4 coaches is a little more than $3 million. Whoever fills the head coaching role here will have some serious work to do.
You know, Drew, if that's a little more than $3 million, I wish I could get a little bit there. Earlier this week, Brian Howell of the Boulder Daily Camera reported that Colorado has interviewed several coaches for their head football job here. The biggest name is Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, but it was reported this week that Bieniemy turned down the Colorado job. He's a after prospect. Other coaches they interviewed, Brett Bielema, the outside linebackers coach for the New York Giants, and Troy Calhoun, the head football coach for the Air Force Falcons. We don't know whether the Buffs offered the job to Calhoun, and he refused to answer about it at his press availability earlier today. Another big name was Steve Sarkisian. It was reported that the Buffs offered the Alabama offensive coordinator the head coaching position here, but Sarkisian turned it down for a big pay raise to stay with the Crimson Tide. Other candidates they've interviewed are interim head coach Darren Cheverini and the head coach at Cal, Justin Wilcox.
Many in Boulder are still shocked over Mel Tucker's decision to leave. However, more details have come out about Tucker's departure, and it represents a scary reality for both CU and the Pac-12. Here's Vinay.
One of the reasons Mel Tucker might have left Colorado is Michigan State nearly doubled his salary. We know Coach Tucker will now be the 12th highest paid coach in college football, and he'll get a pretty significant bump for his assistant coaches. The problem is the difference in athletic department revenues. Last year, Colorado's athletic department brought in $95 million in revenue with $98 million in expenses. On the other hand, Michigan State's athletic department brought in $145 million. Even though Rick George relentlessly fundraises, it's hard to make up the difference in TV deals. John Wilner of the San Jose Mercury News reports that Colorado earned $33 million in their TV deal last year, while Michigan State brought in a whopping $55 million. It's becoming a theme. Pac-12 schools can't compete with the finances of some other Power 5 schools. Wilner has calculated the difference between Pac-12 revenue and the revenues of other conferences. He's found that over 5 years, the revenue gap between the Pac-12 and the SEC would be more than $120 million. And the gap between the Pac-12 and where Mel Tucker's going, the Big Ten, would be almost $140 million. That's enough to buy another Champions Center every 5 years. Yikes. Wilner blames most of this on the Pac-12 networks, saying their revenue is not as high as the conference promised to their schools. Last year, I talked about that disparity with CU's Chancellor Phil DeStefano, who's also part of the Pac-12 leadership.
Our contract comes up in 23-24. The other contracts have already happened with the Big Ten and with the SEC. And so we're playing catch up.
Now, it's not clear whether the next TV deal the Pac-12 strikes will close that gap. What is clear is that the revenue-generating sports right now, football and basketball, are struggling to keep up financially with their competitors. Guys, back to you.
The women's tennis schedule has a slight change for this coming weekend. The team will end up hosting Wyoming instead of going to Old Dominion due to bad weather conditions. The game at Old Dominion will not be rescheduled, and the team will just have one less game for this season. They will play tomorrow at noon hosting University of Wyoming, so make sure to stop in and root for your Buffs.
Colorado's women's tennis team picked up a big 4-3 win on the road Sunday afternoon against the University of Iowa. The Buffaloes clinched the match against Hawkeyes at a 4-2 score as Megan Forster sealed the win in the sixth singles match. The sophomore had a strong first set with a 6-1 win, then dropped the second in a close 7-6 set. She returned back to third, taking the win for Colorado with a 6-1 third set victory. CU kicked things off, taking the doubles point as Sofia Derivin and Kai Ekton took the second doubles match 6-2. The 31st second-ranked duo Monica Mallon and Sarah Nayar clinched the point in the number one doubles match with a 6-4 victory.
Colorado Track and Field will send a small group of 15 athletes to the Air Force Collegiate Open on today to compete in jumping and throwing events. The men's high jump will be a highly contested event, with Jeremy Cody returning to the place where he jumped a personal best 2.14 meters alongside freshman Ryan Charles, who will make his collegiate debut. The Buffs will also compete Avery McMullen in the long jump and Cheyenne Shashir in the triple jump as the two tune up for the MPSF Championships. The rest of the team will take the weekend off, as most are preparing for the MPSF Championships or the transition to the outdoor season.
Ben, did you ever run track in high school or any point in your life?
I was thinking about it. I think it was my junior year, and decided that I didn't want to embarrass myself and throw up in front of everybody, so I ended up not.
That's wise. Yeah. I'm not much of a track guy myself. I don't know if you've ever had 100 time,
Nope, no track for me.
Yeah, anyway, it's about that time of year again. We will go to a break.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Please record in Mike and Q talent in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mic up on 2. All right, take 1. And fade camera 2. Take 3. Ready, red. Roll red. Take cam 1. Take red. Take it. Come on, roll red. Let's go. All right.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm just calling the show.
There's no show.
Not only is it the time of year for us to go on a break, it's also the time for the lacrosse season. After suffering an 0-1 start, the lacrosse team is looking today to get their season back on track. The Buffs are currently playing their first home game today out of Kittredge Field against Harvard. If you hurry, I bet you can still make the end of that.
The NC2A is potentially changing the way they handle transfers. There's currently a proposed rule change that would no longer require transfers to stay out first season after transferring. Tad Boyle says that he believes this rule could result in the Power 5 schools going to town on mid-major stars. He's also worried it would lead to a decrease in graduation rates. In April, the Division I Council will meet to verify the changes. Most sports do not, however, require transfers to sit out, with the exceptions being men's and women's basketball, men's ice hockey, baseball, and football.
Next week, some Forever Buff athletes will be featured at the CU Inclusive Sports Summit. On Wednesday, February 26th, Broncos running back Philip Lindsay and author and former CU basketball player Kate Fagan will appear as keynote speakers. The summit is designed to promote social justice, identity issues, and health in an educational format. Fagan played from 1999 to 2004, starting both her junior and senior seasons. The Buffs made the NCAA tournament 4 times with her on the roster. Philip Lindsay starred for the football team from 2014 to 2017. Whew. Let me tell you, Drew, you were not kidding when you said this was an exciting week for us.
Not at all. Well, Ben, and it's about to get even more exciting because things are going to be heating up in here in just a bit, which means we've got rapid fire after the break. Stay tuned.
This deserves a second look. Michael taking off, the patented tongue comes out. Just in front of that line. Look at this, the double clutch, the reach out. Pass to left wing, looks behind him, wide open, right wing. Up top, open for 3, fires.
Really good basketball, Mark. Unselfish, smart basketball.
Open for 3, fires, nothing but nylon from downtown. Good ball move by Colorado.
Hey Buffs fans, I'm James Margulis and it's time for Rapid Fire. Right now our women's lacrosse team is taking on Harvard today for their home opener at Kittredge Field. They lost their opening game of the season but will look to get back in the win column tonight. The women's basketball team also plays tonight. The 21st ranked Arizona State Sun Devils come to the CU Event Center at 7 o'clock. Then on Saturday, the men's basketball team will tip off at 2 o'clock for their final home game against UCLA. They're fighting for the top spot in the Pac-12 before the tournament begins. Then finally on Sunday, the women's lacrosse team will travel to Ann Arbor, Michigan to face off against the Wolverines for a 10 a.m. morning game. This will be the second top 20 matchup for the Buffs in 3 games. Go support all your Buffs teams and have a great weekend. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, James. Now, finally, the moment you've been waiting for. If, by some miracle, you did not see the answer to the trivia question before, we've got it right now. We asked you, what is CU men's basketball's record for the most wins in a season? The answer is 24 in back-to-back seasons from 2010 to 11 and 2011 to 12. That might have been the hardest one yet, but good job, guys, for getting that one.
And now our tweet of the week comes from the CU Buffs account. These last couple of weeks have been tough for Colorado football team. So the hardworking PR staff of Colorado football has been putting out these hype videos showcasing some of the greatest aspects of CU football.
Being a Buff
picturesque views here. They also share a video of what it means to be a Buff and sing the fight song. Here's a short snippet from Brian Cabral.
Us accomplished what we set out to accomplish, and the greatest reward for any Buffalo, I believe, probably the greatest reward of being a Buff is singing that song, knowing that so many of us worked so hard, so many of us believed in each other, so many of us accomplished what we set out to accomplish, and the greatest reward for any Buffalo, I believe, is singing that song, singing that fight song.
Wow, man, that's powerful right there, and I really think that's a great way to cap off the show and wrap it all up.
I agree, Drew, and I have to say, you did a great job on the desk today. Very proud of you.
Thank you. It's been thanks to Vinay for giving me this opportunity. Fun being up here. Now I got to get ready for a big party later on. So with that, for BuffSports Live, I'm Drew Sherrick.
And I'm Ben Wells. Have a great weekend to all of you, and Drew specifically. Roll Tad.
Roll Tad. We changed the camera.